Welcome to the ABCI studios, where we have our live webinar today for sales managers. It's a workshop, and this is the second time that we have used Webinar Jam. So we'd love to hear what you think of that.
So would we.
We would also like to hear what you think of our poll, and this actually came from the advertisements that we did for the session. So we should have one of these reasons that you want to be here. You want to find great salespeople, you want to learn about compensation plans and options to keep your salespeople motivated, figure out how much scripting, processing, or process scripting and outlining is needed to help your great people shine and to help your good people improve. How to solve accountability problems, providing enough freedom to perform well, and ensuring good stewardship of your company's resources so it's not a complete free-for-all, right?
Exactly.
And how to have a learning environment for the new guys while not constraining your best performers. So you can go ahead and answer that poll however you choose. And we have a few answers coming in, and we'd love to see what you think. You can also, just to kind of get used to the tools here, if you can find the chat window and just let us know where you're from, that would be helpful as well, just as we're figuring all this out. So once again, really happy to have you here, and we'll leave that up for a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and switch to our slideshow here and get started. So
that's a good idea.
That's a good idea. Okay. Cool. So some of you are finding the poll. Some of you are finding the chat window. That's great. We'll just continue on here. Hopefully this will not disrupt any of that as we're doing this. So I'm Paula Williams.
I'm the moderator. I'm John Williams.
And we are ABCI. And ABCI's mission is
to help everybody out there in the aviation world specifically, and others as needed, to sell more products and services.
Absolutely. In the aviation industry. And it looks like we've got Morgan from Texas, Small Propeller MRO. Glad to have you here. We love MROs. They're great folks to work with. Dave is here from Nashville, or in Nashville today. I guess that doesn't mean he's from Nashville, right?
Correct.
Right. And Patrick from KPTK
Pontiac.
Pontiac, Michigan. You've been there.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
I've been there a number of times.
Fantastic. So we are really happy that you are here. And as you're finding that, go ahead and feel free to chime in. So hopefully you are seeing our slide presentation.
I don't think so. Not yet.
Not yet? Nope.
We should be seeing
what
that.
we need to do.
You should be seeing that.
I should be seeing that, and we're not. Okay.
There.
Ta-da!
Now maybe.
Okay. Do we see a slide presentation? Tell us yes or give us a thumbs up or something if you do. I think we are doing all right. Okay, so this is once again problem solving for aviation sales managers. If you are a sales manager, you are in the right place. If you are in aviation, you're really in the right place. We have some unique issues and problems in the aviation industry that nobody else has. If you've been a sales manager in another industry and are new to aviation, you're going to find this pretty weird. If you are from aviation and they're new to sales management, you're going to find this pretty weird also, right?
Probably.
There are two ways to find this weird. Okay, so some of you got a Rubik's Cube in the mail. If you didn't get a Rubik's Cube in the mail, we're going to tell you by the end of this how you can get one. All right. So there are 4 billion possible solutions to a Rubik's Cube, right?
To this one.
To any Rubik's Cube.
No.
Any standard Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, that may be close because they now make those that are 5 by 5.
That's true.
And it's a lot more.
It's a lot more combinations, right? It's exponential. So if you are good with the Rubik's Cube, you've probably already done this to make it look normal, right? But it doesn't look normal because this is aviation, so it's kind of backwards. So
she can do this. I haven't figured it out.
I can only do this. This is my only trick. This is from like junior high, but anyway, and I didn't even do it right, but there you go. Okay. So Rubik's Cubes, 4 billion possible combinations, and why is that even relevant to what we're talking about today?
I suspect you're going to tell us.
Because there's at least 4 billion different ways to manage a sales department. There's a lot of moving parts. The larger your sales department, the larger the number of marketing activities you have going on, and all of that, the more complex it is. So you're constantly trying to figure this out and getting to the best solution for you. So we are really glad you're here. We're going to talk about this pretty in quite a bit of detail, but we would like to know, and based on the poll, it looks like process scripting and outlining is the one that people are the most interested in learning about today. So that makes sense. We're going to talk about all 5 of these things because you may not know how important this is, some of these things. So we'll get there. But once again, we started in marketing and we have ended up in sales accidentally. Because a lot of our clients, since our mission is to help aviation companies sell more of their products and services, and marketing does absolutely no good if sales aren't taking place.
True.
We have gotten into sales training, sales coaching, sales performance, sales management, and a lot of other things with our clients. And we've taken a lot of sales training from Sandler and from Dale Carnegie and from Pacific Institute. And you did the Ford thing, is that right?
Yeah, well, that was Pacific Institute,
Okay,
but I also
right.
went to a couple of others. One was a real estate firm, one was a life insurance firm, and
Oh, heaven forbid.
yeah,
You were one of those people.
I was. But the life insurance folks, after we went through, I believe it was 2 weeks,
Yeah.
told us to go when we left the door, pick up a rock, throw it in the air, whichever way it bounced. Walk that direction, sell a policy to everybody you meet.
Wow.
And it worked.
Right.
It worked. Every person I met on the street, signed them up.
Aviation
Doesn't
customers
work that
are
way.
smarter than that.
No, but I'm just saying there are processes that work.
That's true. And there are processes that do work in aviation. We do need to give our customers a lot more credit for a lot more intelligence, right? And so on. So if you've taken any sales training, we'd love to hear about what you've taken, where it's from, and what you thought of it, what works and what doesn't work in aviation. So feel free to add that in the chat window as we go forward. We may acknowledge that. We may not right away, just to keep the flow going on, but we love to hear those things. And yeah, there are great sales trainings out there.
Yep.
And some of them are really fantastic, and some of them are actually going to do you more harm than good, we found.
Depending on where you are and what's going on. Yes.
Yeah. We found that arm wrestling does not work with aviation consumers. The hard closes do not work very well. And, there's a lot of things that just don't work. But there are a lot of things that do. So we're
Yeah,
going to
the
talk about
business seems to be full of order takers. Amen.
it. Absolutely. All right. So we've talked about your primary objective for now, and we're going to spend the most time then on process scripting and outlining. So thank you for that. But we're going to start with recruiting anyway, whether you like it or not, right? A lot of folks come to us with the question, how do I find a great salesperson? I've got people on LinkedIn that, say they're a great salesperson. I think this is going to be a hard thing to figure out, should I get somebody from the aviation industry? Should I get somebody from, that has a great record of sales? Should I get somebody that I know? Should I get somebody that I don't know? Should I hire my brother-in-law? There's lots of ways of going about this. There's
And
lots
not all
of
of them good.
Right. There's Indeed, there's Glassdoor, there's the LinkedIn recruiting tool. There's a lot of different ways to select people, and you can put out a lot of criteria that you want. So we're going to talk about some of the criteria that we're going to be looking for in a great salesperson. So what's your number one, maybe 1, 2, and 3 of what you look for in a great salesperson? I'm putting you on the spot, right? But these things happen. You've done it, so.
Well, yes, I know.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that can walk through the process oriented,
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay if somebody says no.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be able to, I mean, there's really only three answers to the question, will you buy my product? And it's yes, not now, or no.
Right.
So no is fine,
Mm-hmm.
not now. Then if you get a not now, then set the date
Right.
for the next conversation. What do you
So
need?
something that will follow the process.
Yep, process follower.
Right.
Personable.
Yes. Okay.
And
You didn't put that number one. I'm surprised. But there are a lot of great salespeople, or there are a lot of bad salespeople who are very personable.
that's
They
correct.
just never get to the point, right?
That's exactly why I didn't put it first.
Okay. Is that it?
Well, that's probably numbers 1 and 2 at least.
Okay, cool. Um, yeah, I would totally agree with that. I would add to that documenters, people who are willing and able to document what they do, because we've had some salespeople that I thought were fantastic, but they weren't updating the CRM, they weren't updating the documentation, and then the customer service folks and or we, the management folks and other folks, would get involved and talk to the customer and not know about a conversation that had happened, and that just
You don't have to be a documentation expert, but if you follow the process and make notes
mm-hmm.
somewhere, preferably in CRM because it's the best way.
Yep.
But if you make notes on what you talked about, when you talked about it, and what the results of that conversation is, and when you're going to talk again, or did you make a sale?
Right.
You just put all that stuff down, and
Yeah.
because you're supposedly talking to a lot of people.
Yep.
So then the next time it comes up, the CRM will ping you and say, it's time to call this guy again.
Exactly.
And you know what you talked about and how to start.
Exactly. And we have that, I have that same problem. And we'll talk about this when we get into accountability, because sometimes I will forget to put notes in because I'm sure I'm going to remember this guy. And then I completely forget what we talked about and completely forget some important point that I was absolutely certain that I was going to remember. Yeah. And this is me, and then you get more than one salesperson and you get a mess with those kinds of things. Okay. So those are some things that you want to look for. Make sure you've got somebody that has that. What your three were: somebody that
process
oriented, personable, and mine was documenter.
Right?
Yeah. Okay.
Which is the detailed person. Point.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those three things being equal, right? You get somebody who is process oriented, personable, and a documenter. Do you want somebody from an aviation background or somebody from a sales background?
If they have all three of those things?
Yeah.
Aviation.
Okay.
If they don't have all those, well, in other words, you're saying you want somebody that is aviation knowledgeable versus somebody that's not.
Right. And I guess the question is, which is easier to teach? The aviation background or the sales process?
Now that depends on the person.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because some people will take to process and detail like a cat takes to water, and some people like a duck takes to water. So.
Like a cat takes to water. I've seen some cats take to water pretty well, and some take to water not so well at all.
So it depends on the person. If you get somebody that is sales oriented, then you can teach aviation in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
It's just a bunch of jargon that anybody can learn.
Yeah.
And the longer they're in it, the more they'll know about it.
Right, exactly. Well, we kind of put down a few pros to either side, and we've seen either side be terribly awful, and we've also seen both sides be incredibly successful. Mm-hmm. But here are some of the pros of each side, and you can let us know what you think. Aviation versus sales background, which of those is your preference? Aviation folks, of course, they have, or they possibly have, they hopefully have, a network of contacts in the aviation industry that might be good prospects for you. And a lot of times that's a really great reason to hire someone.
Yes, it is.
Because they already have a network of folks that know, like, and trust them, that know they're a great pilot. And then if you're selling a product or service that has to do with the type of aircraft that they're familiar with, that's instant credibility with a group of people, right? That mm-hmm. That knows you. Second thing is they speak the language, right? They're not going to talk about planes on the tarmac. They know it's the apron, right? They don't speak like news people. They speak like aviation people.
But you can teach that easily.
You can teach vocabulary.
We can teach that easily.
We can teach that easily. more instant credibility, for an aviation person often. So, those are the pluses. The pluses on the sales side are that they already have sales and people skills. Now, we have seen some really sad situations where you take an engineer or a pilot or technician, somebody who is really, really brilliant, and you put them into a trade show, behind a trade show booth, or throw them into a networking event, and they're just miserable, right? They have no idea how to network.
We've seen this.
Right. They're scared to death. This is obviously not their comfort zone. They just don't have the skills.
So they hide behind their iPhone while they text and read emails and
Right.
ignore the booth.
Ignore the booth, hide behind somebody else, do whatever needs to be done. So sometimes that happens with aviation people. It would never happen with a salesperson or a seasoned salesperson, right? Okay. A salesperson is more likely to understand the sales process. So they get that not now is just a stage. They don't take it personally. They're a lot less likely to be unhappy about the outcome of any sales program. They usually have
go through the process. Not now is great.
Yeah, they have a thicker skin to start with,
And if they say no, then they don't waste their time on them anymore.
Right. And they also have lots and lots of tools and techniques for moving the prospect forward in the sales process.
Yep.
Okay. Those things can all be taught, right? The aviation side can also be taught. In fact, we know a company that actually put somebody through their private pilot license so that they would have the aviation background and the credibility, and they were a great salesperson. So that worked out really well for them. And if you've got the ability to invest in people, often, that's a really great idea, to invest in the side that they don't have, right?
Yes.
Okay. Speaking of such things, compensation, right? A private pilot license would be pretty good compensation, right? Nowadays it would. So, those are you may want to think beyond the typical salary and commission options and think about training. What are you offering this person in terms of, especially if they've always wanted to fly? We've got some options here that other industries wouldn't have. We also have the option to provide a lot of contacts in the industry and other kinds of things that are, going to shows, going to conferences, attending training. Those are also part of a compensation package.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's get into the nitty gritty and the big question, right? Salary versus commission.
It's always a big question
for salespeople. And we'd love to hear what you think. You may want to be team commission or team salary. There's always pros to either side. The commission side, if you're a really small company, and we have actually hired commission salespeople and offered this as not really even salespeople, but just a referral bonus for people who refer our products. So that's an informal option, especially if you can't afford an additional person on your staff. So it's self-funding in a way. You're providing a percentage of what they earn. It rewards bottom line performance. So, this is not going to get the people who sit at their desk all day and move paper around, right?
No.
And it is very motivating. So you get people who have high goals and other kinds of things. This is a great option for them. The problems with commission, and we've seen a lot of them, are you get people who will game the system, who will arm wrestle the other salespeople to get the commission, people who will sell, and we've had this happen. We had a salesperson make a sale to someone who was completely unsuited for our product or process, and that was a customer service nightmare. It ended up being, personality is a big deal to us, and this person sold to someone who was not a great fit for us, and they ended up being nasty to some of our co-workers, our photographer, and he actually confiscated our photographer's stuff. So it just went badly because it was not a good fit.
Right.
And, somebody who's a little bit more of a hard-nosed business person might have been able to handle that better. We just didn't have the resources or the inclination to turn that relationship around. So someone that doesn't really understand your company might make a sale that is unfortunate, right? Worse than not making the sale at all, right? Okay. Um, the other side is salary only. So a salary rewards team performance, right? So the company does better and everybody's salary, everybody gets a raise. That really rewards people for working together. And if you have salespeople that need to work together, and you've had situations where one salesperson couldn't make the sale, they hand it off to somebody else and they do great. It was just whether it was a personality thing or.
And that particular company had what they
Mhm.
called draw plus commission.
So if someone had talked to this customer, they would get a percentage of the commission even if they handed that person off to another salesperson.
Mm, sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'll have that work, but typically, as long as you got them to where they took the next step with somebody else, that was actually their approach, and then you would split it.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So if you've got some means of making that happen, I think that's really, really smart.
I sold all kinds of stuff: life insurance, real estate, cars.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. That is really good experience. And you've probably seen the other side too, where people are gaming the system and
Mm.
getting the most commission they can without regard to how well that serves the company, right?
Not very often anymore, actually. That sort of takes care of itself.
Right, exactly. Um, a salary also acknowledges contributions to the company. So if you have someone that is helping you improve your product, saying customers would really like to see this feature added, or they'd really like to see this in a different color, or they're attending your marketing meetings, they're attending sales meetings, that is not commissionable activity. They're spending time improving your company in your life. So you really do need to be compensating them for that in some way. It's also stabilizing. You want people who are able to afford their kids health care and other kinds of things. You want people who are going to stick around for a while so that you don't have new salespeople all the time. And a
Well,
salary
but
really
there
helps
are
with that.
two different approaches to that. I understand not wanting new sales guys all the time. There are companies
Hmm.
around
Yeah,
that every 3 months, I mean, they have a large sales staff,
yeah,
and every 3 months they fire the bottom 10,
yeah,
and then they hire three more,
right.
and that pushes everybody up. They use fear to motivate,
Hmm.
and they end up with a lot of outstanding salespeople, but it's a high pressure environment.
Exactly. And in the aviation industry, you have a smaller pool to draw from, especially if you're relying on that aviation expertise.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of good reasons to want to keep good salespeople around, even if they had a bad quarter,
Oh
as an
yeah,
example. So
that happens to every sales guy. You
exactly.
got a bad quarter. I mean, anything can happen.
Hmm.
Even even regulation, government. I mean,
Oh,
markets.
exactly. So this having a stabilizing salary where they're rewarded with commission, but they have something to rely on, I think is the best solution is to have a mix of those two.
Yeah, last year or two hadn't been good for selling business airplanes at all.
Mm-mm.
And that's not the sales guy's problem.
No.
I mean, it is, but it's not.
Right. And so we've seen a lot of brokers and other folks having to reduce staff, but a lot of them are trying to keep their best people on, with some kind of a relationship. Maybe they need to be flexible in that relationship and allow them to moonlight, those kinds of things, but have some kind of relationship that's ongoing,
Yep.
where they're participating with them and keeping those long deals. That's another thing is we've had such a long sales cycle in the aviation industry that
Oh
you
yeah.
could start a sale today and it could be years, literally, before you sell like an aircraft.
Well, even an airplane.
Hmm.
If I wanted, I know several brokers. If I went to one and said I want an airplane,
Hmm.
how soon can I get one? Well, if you're lucky, 8 to 12 weeks, and
Exactly.
that's if everything works accordingly.
Exactly correctly. Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah. And, a lot of the business to business sales that we do, the more people you add to that sales process and the more expense and the more complexity you add to that sales process, the longer that sale is going to take. So you have to pay somebody something and not expect them to work for 8 months on something that is not uh, going to pay until the end of that
you
process.
want to address this comment?
Sure. Morgan says, what about the sales guys that bring in the correct mix of product within the time frame it can be completed? However, production cannot get their act together. Oh man, we've seen that.
Yeah.
Sales is making sales and production can't keep up, and the customer's disappointed. There's chargebacks. Crazy stuff happens. So that is very unfortunate. That's not. I can't say that that's the sales manager's. Well, the sales
Well, what
manager's
has to
job.
happen is they
Yeah.
got to get together with the company, and the company's got to decide whether this is a fluke
Hmm.
or whether demand is increasing. If demand's increasing, they got to hire some more guys,
And fix
add
the
some more
production
capital
problems.
equipment, do whatever they got to do. And all you can do is bring it up to your
Yeah.
boss and let him go with it, run with it.
Right. So there's a responsibility on the part of the salesperson to make sure that what he's selling is going to work out and that the timelines are all agreed to by the appropriate people in the company. But if the company drops the ball, the sales manager's job is to stick up for a sales guy, make sure he gets some percentage of that, of what he was expecting, I think, I mean, that's only fair.
Yeah, and then what he has to do is to find out from production when they can do the next one, and they have to make a backlist with customers.
Exactly.
Don't sell it until we can sell you this and take your money, but you won't get it for 3 months.
Right. So we put you on the timeline. And as long as that's transparent to the customer, the salesperson, the production folks, and everybody else, then you're still okay, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Natasha says, if you're a salesperson, what if you're a salesperson inside the office, sells sales better,
Inside sales versus outside.
and knows the products better than the salesperson who actually goes on those sales calls? Uh, so I would say your inside salespeople deserve commission if they make sales, right? I mean, absolutely.
Well, it's the old who sold the product?
Right.
The inside guy that talked first, or the
Hmm.
outside guy that got the signature?
Exactly. And that's why sometimes you need to have that mix where everybody in the sales department
Gets a piece of the action.
gets a piece of the action, or at least everyone that touched that customer gets a piece of the action. So there's a number of ways of structuring that, with commission, bonuses, other kinds of things. But as a sales manager, your job is to create that perfect balance.
And we run into that ourselves,
Yeah. Hmm.
and it is not pretty sometimes what you have to make decisions. But what we've done is we defaulted to whoever touched the guy last gets the commission.
Right. Unless everybody's documented everything and we have it
Yeah,
set up so that every customer touch point, if you've got a 50-50 split, you got a 50-50 split. It's all documented. It's all in the CRM, right?
yeah,
Another great reason for a good contact management system so that you can see who did most of the contact. And if it's a 50-50 split, it's that so much easier to see.
yeah. You
Yeah,
can sure get into some arguments if you're not careful,
exactly. So
even if you are careful.
that's another reason you need good documenters as salespeople, because if it's not in the CRM, it didn't happen.
That's right.
They don't get paid
So
for it, right?
says the inside guy writes in the CRM, I talked to this guy, we agreed to this. Then the outside guy goes out there and says, well, wait a minute, you can see on this date we did this. So either they split it or the inside guy, however they determine that. But
Right, exactly. So the best documenter often
that
wins.
needs to be something that your sales manager determines.
Exactly. All right. So let's keep going. We're going to talk about that a little bit more when we get to accountability. Okay, so process scripting and outlining. Um, the question is, how much process scripting and outlining is needed to help great people shine and help good people improve? So if you have a new sales situation, you've got a new sales department and you're hiring people for the first time, I think you need to script and process every little thing, as much as humanly possible, because the more you do, the more tools people have in their quiver, that they are able to just pull out and use.
That
And
does not mean you read the outline.
no,
I
but
want the script.
you should know the outline so that you can use it when it's appropriate
Absolutely.
and deviate from it when you need to. So, and we can do this. The way that we do this usually is we provide the script and then we do a lot of role playing with the script, saying, okay, so here's why. Here, you did this by the script and it was perfect, or you did this by the script and You deviated here, and that was great because they gave you reason to, right? Okay.
I will try to talk louder.
Thank you for the feedback. I keep telling him to talk louder. Anyway, um, so let's talk about some of the details of this. Why do you need a script? First reason is sales anxiety, right? If you just tell people to make calls, they're going to sit there like this and go, I don't want to make calls. But if you give them a script and say, these people just received a package in the mail, you're going to ask them if they received the package. You're going to ask them if they have any questions about sales training, and you're going to find out if they're available next week for a free consultation. So if that's your outline, and that might be all it is, they're going to feel a lot more comfortable about picking up the phone because they know how to start the relationship. They know who they're supposed to get hold of. They know how to proceed with that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. And, I have a lot of this. I have telephone anxiety. Don't tell anybody. The phone is not my favorite thing, right? But it makes it so much easier for me if I have an outline of what I'm going to say. That doesn't mean I'm going to use the outline. That just means I'm not going to be sitting there with my teeth in my mouth, trying to figure out what to say, right?
Back at a certain point of time when I was flying every day, of course, we took turns sitting at a desk,
Mm.
and you had to be the admin to get stuff done. And we always, if somebody was successful, then they got their telephone wings.
Their telephone wings.
Yep.
We should do that. We should have telephone wings in our courses. Give away a little thing that has telephone wings on it. I think that makes perfect sense. So that's great. All right. So that's sales anxiety. Now let's talk about a process. So we're going to talk about some specific processes that you can use, but the reason that you want to have a process is because it removes pressure.
Yes, anxiety.
And anxiety, and because it works. Because if you have done this before, you take the best practices from sales techniques that have worked, they become part of the process. And then for every, for example, with us, we send out a blue folder. That's part of our sales process, one of the first parts of our sales process. For every blue folder that we send out, we're going to close 1 out of 4 of those blue folders. So somewhere between 3 and 4.
Right.
So we send out 4 blue folders. We're certain we're going to make a sale. And we keep improving that ratio as we improve the contents of that blue folder and as we improve the process that comes after it.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So it adds predictability. You know how much money you're going to make because of how well you're doing in your sales process. You know how many blue folders you sent out this month, so you know how many sales you're going to make next month. Simple math, right?
Yep, but you get really good at it. You just got to make sure that the company can follow your lead.
Exactly. Absolutely. As Morgan said, that's absolutely true. And Dave says a robust and well-managed CRM is absolutely vital today. You're absolutely right. And this is part of the reason why. We have in our CRM 4 stages, right? Prospecting, credibility, closing, and follow-up.
Yep.
And prospecting, we have 10 different things in there. For the purpose of today, I only put in 2, LinkedIn and postcards, right? That's those are 2 of the ways that we find people or that people find us. And so we know that if I make 5 new LinkedIn contacts and send 5 meaningful messages to existing LinkedIn contacts, and that would be an article or something that I know is going to be helpful to them. If I make 5 of those, I know that some percentage of them, probably one of them, is going to request an information package or a consultation.
Right.
So some number of those information packages, that's what we call the blue folder, right? For every 4 of those we send out, we're going to make a sale.
We do the analytics on this 2 or 3 times a year.
Exactly.
Just to make sure we're improving and not going the other way.
Right. And those information packages are kind of in conjunction with a consultation. So our process is to send an information package and then do a consultation. So almost all of those are in tandem. The information package goes out, we have a consultation. Next stage is we find the best product fit for that client and find the best timing to get started for them and for us. Once again, if somebody wanted a website tomorrow, we'd refer them to someone else,
That's
right?
Yeah.
Or we would see if we could find a way to make the timing work for them as well.
Right.
Okay, so as long as that's transparent for everyone, and Lindsay, I know you're on the call, and we just had this conversation about your website. Sometimes we have to balance what we can do well versus what the customer needs, and make that all happen. Okay, so we find the best product fit, and we find the best timing to get started, and then we send out a new customer welcome package, and we have an onboarding process, which is a checklist in a product called Basecamp, where people go through a series of events. We make sure that they can log into Basecamp. We make sure that they can log into their new website, whatever it is. We make sure that we have all of the information we need to get started. We sign them up for our course if that's part of the deal that the package we put together for them, and so on.
And when you have sold the product,
Mm.
the customer has the product,
Mm-hmm.
customer is using the product, you still ain't done.
Mm-hmm. Right. Oh, Basecamp is great. Morgan, we agree. I wouldn't be able to live without it. It would be crazy. The CRM that we use is Infusionsoft. The important thing is that you use a CRM. Infusionsoft is a little big and nerdy for some smaller companies.
Yeah, Salesforce is probably the best, but it's also the most expensive.
Exactly. It's also the most salesperson friendly. So, as a sales manager, most of the sales managers that we work with, I would say, prefer Salesforce if money is no object.
If money's no object.
But money is always an object. So,
But I mean, the thing
right.
that with what we use,
Mm-hmm.
the it monitors everything,
Mm-hmm.
and all you got to is look at it and tells you who you need to call next.
Exactly. The lead scoring
Pretty
is
cool.
great. We also like the automation. So, this process, people that I connect with on LinkedIn, I can see those in a pipeline. Uh, I can also see the lead score of each person. I can also see the notes that I've made for each of those people, whether they need a postcard next, whether they need an information package next. What is the date for our next interaction with that person? All of those things. And I can set up some checklists for each of those stages to make sure that we don't move somebody from one stage to the next without uh, checking off all those boxes. In fact, we just had someone that called us and wanted a product from us. He wanted us to develop a brochure for him, and he wanted it yesterday. And we didn't go through this process, so he just wanted to figure this out, and he wanted to figure out how much it cost and everything else. We didn't go through this process. We didn't do a consultation. As it turned out, he was not a great fit for us because he didn't follow the process and we didn't follow the process. So we ended up not working together and saying, you know what, we're not going to spend the amount of time that you need for this, and you're not going to spend the amount of time that you need to get this done well.
Yeah.
So
we have to make sure we follow the process.
yes. So it's not just us, it's discipline. And that's very important. All right. So another thing that the process does is it allows you to focus on your buyer. So I already know that all this is taking place behind the scenes. I've got automation doing as much of this as I possibly can. I do all of my own social media interaction except for posting ads and things on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. But all of the interaction, the comments, the likes, I've liked a lot of you guys' posts and things recently. You may have noticed that's all me. I don't do any bots or anything like that because I want to focus on the bits that are the most important. And I think those are the personal interactions, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So you want to automate. We have a template in Basecamp. Every time we have a new customer come online, it's got all of our checklists and everything that go up. So I don't spend any time on that. I spend all of our time possible on our office hours and on our personal interactions with people, right? It's another way a process really helps.
I need to interject.
Please do. Maybe.
Housekeeping.
Oh,
Our primary internet's been flaky today. So if it fails and you don't hear us or we lose you, give us about 2 minutes to get this backup internet running, and we should be right back.
no. Okay. Are you seeing flickers?
Uh-huh.
Oh, great. Okay. We're flickering. Okay. No pressure. All right. So we're actually doing pretty well. So accountability. Now this is the part where everybody is looking in the mirror and seeing something fabulous, and they're looking at the person next to them every time they see something that is not fabulous, saying, what's wrong with you? Um, this is one of the toughest things for a sales manager to do, is to try and keep everybody happy and getting along and performing well and making sure that everyone is accountable. And the only way to do this is to treat everyone exactly fairly, right? And
Mm-hmm.
have rules that apply to everyone. And this becomes a really tough call at times. Um, so what we do is we do an accountability meeting every week. And often we do this with our clients, where we have one every month. With some of our clients, it's every week. And we basically go through the pipeline with each salesperson and say, what's in your pipeline? What's going on? What do you need help with? And make that a positive thing rather than a negative thing. So we want to make sure that that's going on every single week. And that holds me accountable. It used to be, with just John and I, why on earth would we need a sales meeting? I know what's going on, and he can look at the CRM whenever he wants to. So, there's no reason to do that. But we actually go off site. We go to Starbucks once a week. We go every Monday, and we go through the pipeline. And I know every Monday I'm going to have to explain to John what's happening with every single person in that pipeline, right?
Yep.
And it's embarrassing to me when it is not right. So sometimes I will drop the ball and need to have that back together. But I'm embarrassing myself because I'm the one who has to report on that, right?
Yes.
So you don't hold my feet to the fire necessarily, or we wouldn't still be married, right?
Why?
There's a lot of family businesses in aviation, so this does get sticky and does get really interesting, because we've worked with a lot of companies where some of their salespeople are family and some of their salespeople are not family. And every salesperson has stuff that comes up. They have kids getting married, parents getting sick, all kinds of crazy things happen, and balls get dropped. There's no question about it for anyone, no matter how conscientious they are. But whatever process you have to hold your family members accountable, you also have to hold your non-family members to that same process and not cut anybody any more or less slack than there was at any other time, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, that's really important. And I need to move to the next slide. So
Cool.
let's do that. Okay.
Just
So this is what we do with our coffee meeting. Basically, I go through our pipeline stages: new opportunity, working, paid assessment, and onboarding, which is just slightly more complicated um, terms for what we just talked about in that situation with the arrows. So I know we've got 13 new opportunities right now. I know what's going on with each of them, right? I know what
yep.
the next step is for each of them, and that is a blue folder and a consultation, right? If I'm working on them, then what we're doing is we're working on those. We're working on finding the right product fit and the right timing for that person. So we try to work within people's budget, but we have to make sure that we've got our costs covered. So we don't discount our products, and this is really actually an important point, I think, for every salesperson, and we coach every salesperson that we work with the same way. Um, you don't want to do discounts unless there's some reason that you want to break that rule. But for the most part, you just want to find the right product fit for them. Find something that is a smaller, lesser product, or is more spread out over time, so that you can make that work for them.
Right.
Okay. You find the best product fit. Next is paid assessment, something like that. And then next is onboarding, where that person is coming up to speed. And we don't consider that sale done until after 90 days, when that person is completely happy with their products and services and likely to continue with those, right?
Right.
Okay. Other things that I can do when someone's in this new opportunity phase, you can see I've got a checklist. I have to say I've made initial contact with that person, and that means having talked to them on the phone or something other than email and LinkedIn and so on. And I have to have sent them a blue folder.
True.
I also will put down a forecast date and some money, high or low, just so that I know, is this person that is going to be a whale or a minnow, right?
True.
That helps John do our budget stuff, forecasting and other things. Of course, he doesn't forecast really until we've got it on the bottom line, but still helpful. So that's our coffee meetings, our accountability coffee
That's
meetings.
phase one of
Right.
it.
Each of our phases in working, I've got a different checklist. In paid assessment, I've got a different checklist. And in onboarding, I've got a different checklist. So all of those things are very important. Dave says it's interesting how sales and sales management are clearly not the same thing and have their own challenges. So yeah, today's webinar is completely about sales management, with a little bit of sales every here and there where we have to talk about sales.
Right.
We do webinars completely on sales, and we have courses that are just for salespeople. Okay. Another thing a sales manager needs to do is to create a learning environment. One thing that we're afraid of is any salesperson or any person that works with us that has only read one book, right? Because they go crazy over this one book and they have one technique and one thing that they can do. And I'll tell you a little story about Taekwondo. My son has this thing that he does, and it actually is a series of moves that basically put somebody on the ground, right? Fairly easily, with not much effort on his part and not much suspicion on their part.
Until it's all over.
Yeah, and he does this in just about every tournament he's in at least once, right? But it only really works once. And the reason is because a tactic known is a tactic learned, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Every time.
And so, a lot of the things that we learn about sales and about marketing are good at the time that we learn them, and they're good for a specific circumstance. But if that's the only tool we've got, it's only going to work on a certain percentage of the customers that we run into, and it's only going to be a good fit for a certain number of the relationships that we have. Mm-hmm. But we read a different book every month and talk about it in our Facebook group. We talk about it on our podcast and social media and so on. So we think it's really important to provide a learning environment where people are always learning something new and applying those new things, and then they become a more well-rounded salesperson that's more confident in a different situation, more able to deal with something that comes up, has more things to talk about, more anecdotes even. They can talk about the thing that in neuromarketing where, with a prospect, I've heard somebody bring this up in a meeting with a prospect and talk about this trick and say, this is why this doesn't work. And this is why I'm not going to try this on you.
Well, it becomes almost like situational awareness, except in the sales process.
Right. The more hours you have flying, the safer the pilot you are. The more hours you have in the room doing sales, the better a salesperson you are.
Oh, yeah.
But you can simulate a lot of that by reading a lot, and also by doing the role playing and the other things that we do in our course, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So, one thing that, we had talked about, the perfect sales meeting is 20 minutes of inspiration and or market updates and things like that. The next 20 minutes is training, like technique type training. And then the next 20 minutes is accountability, where you go through things. And this can be a one-on-one, or it can be with a sales team. So you go through that with people and spend 1 hour a week or even a month. And you're still much better off having spent that hour with 20 minutes each on each of those topics. And one idea that we've heard that's really good is where each salesperson brings in a different idea. And, so I'm in charge of May, Lindsay's in charge of June, Dave's in charge of July, Morgan's in charge of August. You bring in a specific technique that you want to teach the rest of the team about, and everybody comes out ahead because we're learning from each other. All right. So this is our group, and this is actually a lot of fun. You'll notice we have our little pins, and may have wondered what those are. Is this a secret cult? Is this the Illuminati? This is actually the insiders. What we do, which is a little bit different than every other marketing company we've ever met, they like for their customers not to talk to each other because they've negotiated prices and they don't want people to know what all they've done and things like that. So their preference is to kind of keep their customers apart. We want them to get together because we think the more successful everyone is, the more successful everyone will be. And this is Shane Ballman. He does software sales for aircraft maintenance software. Jeremy is an aircraft broker, jet broker Jeremy.
Yep.
And in the at the table up above, we've got our breakfast at that was in Orlando, yeah, for NBAA. So we do get together every once in a while, and we get together in our Facebook group and other things, and really enjoy each other's company, and also do a lot of role playing and a lot of different things together that are a lot of fun. So you may be thinking, how do I become part of this group? What we're putting together for you is the right, hopefully, product fit for people who have attended this webinar. We want to make this a really good fit for project or for sales managers and project managers. So this is an opportunity that you have. If you're already in our insiders group, congratulations, because you're already part of this, and you're welcome to listen and ask questions and everything else as we go through this. So one thing that's included in this is our sales certification course. And this is intended for two types of people. People who are coming to aviation for the first time and have not, have a lot of sales experience but are coming to aviation, or have a lot of sales experience and are coming to sales. Did I say that right, or did I get it backwards? I don't know. Anyway, those two types of people, and it includes a pretty large number of interactive exercises and role-playing exercises and things like that we do with people. And the retail for this is $4.99, and you do get a certificate at the end that includes our aviation sales basic certification, is what it's called. We have two more that are coming that we haven't even written yet, that are intermediate and our advanced aviation sales courses that take the best of what we've learned from the sales training and other things, and from our experience of working with a number of aviation companies, what actually works to make sales, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that's an online course. You can take it anytime you like. There's 11 modules, and they're all based on your own scheduling. We also include our book club, office hours, and our office hours are basically, it can be those accountability hours that we talked about, or if you have specific marketing objectives that you want to work on, like you need a new brochure or something like that, you can do that. So whatever you need for 1 hour a month, you schedule it, you're the boss. We do whatever we can do to help you for 1 hour a month. We have a goal each month. In March, it was resales and referrals. This month it's actually our brand stories. There are 5 stories that every brand has to have, and we're working on those 5 stories with everyone. And you can see we've got some really cool people. That's Bené Wilson, the aviation queen.
Yep.
Very well-known reporter. And that's Jeff Stadola with he is in a growler, I think, with the SOAR book that's by Shashank Nigam. He wrote a book on branding for the airlines. So that's a lot of fun. So all of those things are included. You also get our calendar that has everyone's birthday, that has all of our book club stuff, and all of the aviation shows that are really important for us to know about, and things like that. Here are some things that people say about our insiders circle or our lab. So all of that is really cool. Morgan says most of our customers are brokers, agents, etc., and 90% of our business is military, domestic and foreign. Selling in the military space is different than commercial. Do you have any experience training people in this space? John, you've done the military thing. I'll let you.
Well, there was a time when I worked with military sales, so I get it.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of RFPs.
There's a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
You don't really just sell like you do on the outside here, outside in the civilian, the private sector, whatever. So that's an interesting thing, and we don't exactly right. There's not much selling.
Mm-hmm. It's all following the rules and checking all the boxes, right? I mean, that's what I understand.
Yeah, well, it depends on your product suite and where you are in the process, with the government's eye.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're one of the major defense contractors, then it's one way. If you're trying to get in, it's another way.
Right. But a lot of that is documentation, RFPs,
Oh
other
yeah.
kinds of things. So yes, we have done that in people's office hours. We've helped them with RFPs, with getting meetings with the right people, with um, you know troubleshooting that process, figuring that out. So some of our clients are do a lot of military sales, and then they're also trying to build up their civilian sales for a little bit of balance, so that they have what would I say, a little more control over the process.
Yeah, foreign military sales is a little more interesting than just domestic. So that's a different ball game.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. If it's foreign sales, we probably would not be much help to you. If it's
no,
U.S.,
foreign military sales is done here, but
yeah.
you do it differently than you do domestic.
Hmm.
I just all that needs to be said about that right now.
Okay, cool. All right. So I know we're getting some questions about this as well. So once again, in our poll, which was the most important thing? We talked about process scripting and outlining the most because that was the most requested in our poll and things like that. I'd love to hear from you if you want to respond in the chat window. If there was one idea that you took away today, one new thing that you learned, would like to hear that, and then that way everybody else will see kind of a summary, and that will sum things up for them as we're wrapping up today. Okay, so how much does it cost to be part of our group? And this is what we call our marketing lab. And this is what we think is the best fit for sales managers, is our aviation sales and marketing insider circle, including the lab and including the course, including the book club, including the office hours, and all of those things. It's $279 a month, which is actually a really good deal. We actually do a consulting program for 500 an hour. So this is the least expensive you're ever going to get, our office hours and things like that. And we're going to offer a team discount. So as a sales manager, you want to get your team up to speed. So if you buy two, you get the third free. And there's a question, do I get a discount if I am just one person? And your discount is, we don't discount, but we do give you something extra, and that is a Rubik's Cube. If you're one of the first 6 people to join us, we do have 6 more Rubik's Cubes that we can give away. This offer expires July 31st, 2018, or when we're out of Rubik's Cubes, right? Okay. So we'd love to have you as part of our group. It's a lot of fun. We really enjoy each other, and there are so few aviation professionals in the world, and so few networking opportunities that extend beyond the shows and other kinds of things where we're actually trying to help each other succeed. So that's a lot of fun, and we'd really love to have you join us and be part of that group. So any other questions coming in?
Nope.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, how long does it?
How long is the contract?
How long is the contract? Okay. You could actually quit after the first month.
No contract, in other words.
Right. No contract, exactly. So if you join in the first month and complete the sales basics course and then quit, you come out way ahead because you got our book of the month, you got our office hours, and you got the sales course, and you did all that in a month, and then you quit. We think that you are going to enjoy the group enough to stick around, and that's for us to prove. So.
Right, and when you do get into the group, they will be direct if you ask them a question.
Right, our Facebook group, they're really cool. If you ask them, do you like ad A or B? Then some people are going to say C. You should do it this way instead of either one of those things. All right, so Lindsay says, for me, the idea of giving a bonus or commission for a completed sale, I think I can really use that. Let me tell you a little bit more about how we do that. And we're actually just going to stay on the line for as long as there's questions. I know we got just a couple of minutes left. But what we do is we offer a 20-10-5 for people that join us with a subscription service. So as an example.
What?
A bonus?
Yeah, but you didn't say what you meant to say.
Okay.
Start over.
Start over. Okay. So this is for informal salespeople who are not on our payroll. They're not part of ABCI. They are not anything like that. They just refer someone to us and they do the sales process for us.
That's fine.
Okay. And then they make a sale for us. So, Lindsay, if you went out and brought somebody to us and they signed up for $100 service, just to make the math easy, right? Then your bonus or your commission would be $20 when they signed up, $10 the second month
that they stay with us.
that they stayed with us, and $5 the third month that they stayed with us.
Exactly.
And then after that, it's pretty much our job to make sure that they stick around. But what that does is it encourages you to be part of that process, and that group is a little more sticky, and people are motivated to help people. And Dave says, great information today. Found your reference to your company sales process helpful. Thank you, Dave. We like to think of ourselves as the crash test dummies of the aviation marketing, sales and marketing world. And the reason for that is because we do all of these things. Like when we started our podcast, we had no idea if it was going to work or not. But we wanted to try it because a lot of our customers were interested. And now we have numbers on how that works. How many.
We make sure that we do it before we recommend it or help you do it.
Right. So,
then we know.
Yeah, exactly. So do postcards work? We can give you good examples of how postcards work with the numbers of how that worked for us and things like that. So that's part of the reason that we think the group is so helpful, is because if whatever project you're into, we've probably done something similar with your folks.
Yes, we have.
Okay. All right, so that is pretty much it for today. The deal is going on through the end of July. So, if you'd like to join us, if you'd like to talk about it, feel free to schedule some time with me and let's talk about your individual situation and let's talk about whether it's a good fit for you. We'll tell you if it's not, because once again, we don't want any unhappy customers.
So how do they schedule time with you?
They schedule time with me by going to our website, abci1.com. On the left-hand side, there is a talk with us button. You can schedule 30 minutes, or you can call 702-987-1679, and operators are standing by, right?
Yes, they are.
Yes, they are. So that's 702-987-1679. I should have that on a slide, but I don't. So you're welcome to do that, or I'm going to put the offer up in just a second here, so you can click on that if you want to see a little bit more detail about what that is and how that works. So you're welcome to join us. And once again, that ends in 264 hours, which actually is the end of July. But if you'd like to join us today, then of course you get more goodies faster. So the first 6 will get a Rubik's Cube, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Everybody wants a Rubik's Cube. All right. Thanks for joining us. We really enjoyed having you, and thank you for all the comments. It's so much more fun to talk to a lively room, right?
You bet.
Okay. Have a great day.
And see you next time.